I spoke with an Insomniac developer and found 10 facts about Spyro that you didn't know. Let's talk about it.
Whoa!
What's up guys, Canadian Guy here, and back with a brand new Spyro the Dragon video. Normally, I would be talking about Spyro Reignited or speculating about Spyro 4. But today, we are going classic. The original vanilla Spyro the Dragon on PlayStation 1. The original Spyro trilogy was revolutionary for its time and hit the platforming craze right when the iron was hot. At the time, Insomniac was releasing a new Spyro game on a yearly basis, which obviously must mean that development was hard, quick, and everyone had to think on their feet for 3 straight years. One of those people was Oliver Wade. Oliver Wade was the animation director and character designer for both Spyro 2 and Spyro 3. He started closer to the end though at the development of Spyro 1, animating the dragons that Spyro would save from their crystal stasis. I had the lovely privilege to talk with him over email and asked a bunch of questions related to the original Spyro the Dragon trilogy. During that conversation, I was able to extract 10 big things that you probably didn't know about Spyro the Dragon. So, what are we waiting for? Let's dive in. Number 10. Why were dragons bipedal, and where are the girls at? Spyro runs on all fours with all of his might, and it is absolutely adorable. But when he saves one of the grown-up dragons that are trapped in crystal, they stand on their hind legs and become bipedal. This is something that we even see in Spyro 3 when they are not trapped in crystal, where it seems they prefer to stand on their hind legs than to be on all fours like Spyro. Well, there is an explanation. Though the PlayStation 1 was powerful for its time, it of course had many limitations. The dragons could only be 256 polygons, which is not a lot to work with. With those 256 polygons, they had to animate movement and show expressions. So, to make use of the polygon limitation, they had the dragons stand on their hind legs so that they can use their arms and emote a lot more, giving more expression without having to add more polygons. Spyro, however, was kept on all fours because it made him look cuter and more like a traditional dragon. Now, a question that people have been asking for so long, and something that I wondered too, and it was, where are the female dragons? Why are there no female dragons for Spyro to save? Well, that came down to 2 technical issues. 1. None of the dragons actually had clothes on. That would have eaten up too many polygons if they decided to put them on to be able to distinguish different dragons from each other. So, on the PS1, it would be hard to distinguish males from females with the small amount of polygons that they had access to. And 2, according to Oliver, it also might have to do with the limited voice cast that they initially could hire. Many dragons obviously had the same voice actor. That's because the pool of voice actors was very small. So at least for the first game, they had to work with what they had. And at the time, it seemed to be an all-male cast. Number 9. Machinists and Aquafires. If you don't know, according to an early press kit for Spyro 1, there were 2 more dragon factions, the Aquafires and the Machinists. Some speculate that Nasty's world was originally supposed to be where the Machinists were, but again, that is up to speculation. Unfortunately, Oliver came late into the development of Spyro 1 and did not recall anything about the Machinists, but he did confirm that there was a water world. He sent over some sketches of some of his work, one of them being a family of Amish dolphin riders. Yes, you heard me right, Amish dolphin riders. But that's not the most interesting thing. The boss of that world, in the likes of Toasty, was supposed to be a big underwater dragon. We even have a sketch of this water dragon that was obviously unused, but the hole goes even deeper. The boss level, where the boss would reside, according to Oliver, was allegedly recycled into Aquaria Towers, a level for the second game. The specific area that the giant water dragon boss was going to be in was in the top area where you ride Hunter's Manta Ray. This big open space, it seems, was dedicated to this big boss fight. It's also funny because if you think about the names, the Aquafires and Aquaria Towers, they are both based off of the word aqua, and that's really interesting as well if you think about it. Number 8. Moneybags wasn't originally a bear. So as we move on from Spyro 1 and enter into Spyro 2, we gotta talk about the bear that we all love to hate, Moneybags. But of course, when he was initially drafted and created, he was not a bear at all, but in fact a rhino. Now this is interesting, especially since later on in the franchise, in Spyro 3, Rhinox, which were bipedal rhinos, were the sorceress's minions. It's really interesting to think that Moneybags may have been a Rhinoc. I mean, I'm sure Agent 9 would have been perfectly okay with being caged by one. A Rhinoc! Number 7. Allora was a Centaur. Allora seems to be Spyro's heartthrob, and this is definitely something that is pushed further upon in the Spyro Reignited trilogy.
I'm a fawn, you dork.
Oh, sorry.
But did you know she originally was not a fawn? Allora on her first draft was actually a full-blown centaur. If you take a look at Allora's concept art that was made by, once again, Oliver Wade, you can actually see the original outline of the 4 legs. Now, we actually internally did a simple redraw to give a visual prompt for this video, but when we showed that visual prompt to Oliver Wade, he decided to go overboard and actually redraw the image himself. So here is the official, what could have been Centaur Allora. Thank you again, Oliver Wade, for this amazing and awesome piece. But why was Allora changed to a fawn? The answer is purely technical. Those dreaded polygons. Remember, each model could only have about 256 polygons on the PS1. If they added more legs, details would have been taken away elsewhere on the model, and Oliver really wanted to make sure that he dedicated and executed Allora's face and body to be as clear as possible. So the polygons that would have been dedicated to the hind legs were redistributed elsewhere. Also, it is much easier to animate 2 legs instead of 4, especially with the time crunch that Insomniac had. Number 6. Spyro 3's playable characters. In each consecutive game, Spyro's moveset continued to expand. However, Ted Price, the current CEO of Insomniac, felt that Spyro had started to reach his limitations in terms of movesets. To alleviate this, Spyro 3 introduced the side playable characters, Sheila, Sergeant Bird, Bentley, and Agent 9, all with different abilities and movesets that were meant to be different from Spyro, creating a break from the same gameplay mechanics from the other games. Number 5. Sheila. Sheila was interesting in terms of her design phase. When she was initially drafted, she was just a kangaroo. In comparison to the other side playable characters though, she was seen as kind of bland and plain, with Sergeant Bird having a hat and rockets, Bentley being a literal yeti with a giant club, and Agent 9 being a crazy space monkey with a gun. She did seem a bit plain, especially in comparison. So she had a few other details added to her. Initially, she had a red shirt, horns, and even boxing gloves given to her. According to Oliver, at one point she even had hair. Remember that fiasco for Reignited, where people were screaming about Sheila having hair? Yeah, I wish I could forget that. However, the gameplay for Sheila had nothing to do with punching, but had to do with kicking. So at the end of the day, the boxing gloves didn't really make sense, and so they tuned everything back and went with the initial design, which was just fine in the end. Number 4. Agent 9. Agent 9, the spastic space monkey that we all know and love, is one of the side playable characters for Spyro 3. But did you know, the very first design that was drafted for Agent 9 was not an obnoxious ape, but a pig? Oliver had designed a look for Agent 9 that he absolutely adored. He tried his best to get it approved, but Ted Price just was not feeling it. It was Ted's idea to have Agent 9 be a monkey to begin with, and so they went with the monkey. I wonder what things could have been if the pig idea had went through though. Number 3. Crystal Islands. Crystal Islands is one of the final levels in Spyro 3. Spyro has always been known for its odd and interesting designs when it came to the worlds and their characters that reside within them. Crystal Islands, however, encountered a bit of an identity crisis. Originally, the design of the level was supposed to be around a forest, so the characters that were designed were based on, well, forest creatures, specifically the bear and a flying beaver. However, sometime during the game's development, the level theme was completely changed, from a forest to crystallized islands. Now, the development for the original Spyro trilogy was hectic to say the least, and there was not enough time to redraft and remake the whole set of new enemies. So, what do you do when you have a bear and a level theme that's been changed from a forest to crystal? Crystal bears! That's it, that's what you do. This level is really a testament of how development can go and how sometimes developers have to think on their feet to get the project done within the time limit that they've been allotted. Number 2. Spyro 4 was not planned. This one feels slightly depressing, but this is the fact. While Insomniac was working on Spyro 3, they knew that this was going to be the last time that they were working on Spyro. Ted Price felt that Spyro's moveset was extremely limited and didn't think that the game design could be pushed too much more other than adding new levels. Ted felt that they reached their max capacity in terms of the game design. The team was already working and talking about a game that they would make for the PlayStation 2 that was currently codenamed Girl with a Stick. However, after a lukewarm response to Girl with a Stick, they decided to scrap the project and move on to something new, which eventually turned into the PlayStation icons that we all know today, Ratchet and Clank. Number 1. Extremely fast development. It's no secret that Spyro's development between iterations had to be done at lightning speed. With each game coming out year after year and one after another, Insomniac, who was working for Universal at the time, had less than a year to pump out a new Spyro game. Because of that, there isn't much cut content for the games. They didn't have time to really experiment with new stuff or try anything that they weren't going to use. According to Oliver, it had to be right the first time and then they would fine-tune it from there. This even rolled over to the enemy designs of each level. Oliver said something that really amazed me, and I just wanted to read the quote word for word from him. Quote, "Almost all the enemies were designed during the level meetings where the level designer explained to the artists what they wanted and how it worked. I would sit in those meetings, which were about 30 minutes, and draw all the characters while the designer talked. When the meeting was over, the character designs were finished. I very rarely went back and made any changes. Since the characters were so low poly, any changes I wanted were just done as I was building the characters. Some of the main characters got a revision or two, but most of them were done on the very first shot as well." He does make note that one of those characters that he mentions would be Moneybags. It's amazing to think that Insomniac, in a blaze of glory, somehow made such iconic and original content in such a short amount of time. It really just shows the weight of talent that this studio holds, even to this day. And those were 10 facts about Spyro the Dragon that you didn't know. What did you think of this video? Comment below and let me know. And let me know what you learned in today's video. Thank you so much to all those who not only support the channel, but myself and my family. Because of your contributions, I'm able to do this full time. If you'd like to support the channel, please consider clicking the join button or becoming a Patreon with the link in the description. I also live stream every Thursday and Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come on by and say hi. Again, thank you to everyone, and I'll see you guys in the next video and or live stream.